All good.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Yeah, that's the charge port too, so sometimes it thinks it's trying to charge from the other device.
Oh.
And it's just, yeah, it's a dumb battery. It's got a lot of power, so.
Yeah. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Odeh. I'm a visual artist, curator, and educator. It is true we are in a marketing conference and it's very heavily focused on design and you know, like all the strategies and tools that you have. But I wanted to provide my input as a person who is much more involved in the arts and nonprofits and museums and galleries. So because of that, I wanted to share my expertise that might be beneficial for you to know, or maybe not beneficial, but just like information to put it in your, you know, back of your head, front of your head, whatever you want to put it in your brain. So today I'm going to talk about marketing trends, strategies, and challenges for arts organizations. It is a very challenging topic for arts organizations, and I'm going to share with you the different inputs that I had, and I did some research through internet and through the connections that I have. My expertise, so I'm a visual artist, curator, and educator, as I said. I received my bachelor degree in visual communications from Damascus University, Syria. And in 2016, I decided to continue to pursue my master's degree. And I went to the museum studies, which is, I got it from Syracuse University. You guys know Syracuse, 2 hours away from here. And I went to the design school. So the one thing about the design school in Syracuse University, and I'm not selling you the school, like you don't have to go there, but it's just because I do like how they taught us about like, not only about museums, how to curate and how to design exhibits, but also how to sustain and maintain ourselves as leaders of nonprofits. Specifically, like designing websites, learning how to design, like, you know, basic things like brochures, flyers for your museum or gallery. So that thing helped me a lot in like kind of shifting my focus, like to have like a broader look or a broader experience of what museum needs in general, and what gallery needs or an art organization. So I recently founded one company and one organization. Quartz X is to serve like museums and galleries and nonprofits, and it is like a small business that I'm still working, developing, and like trying to see where it's going to take me. And I also started a nonprofit organization called Arabesques to celebrate the arts and culture from the Middle East and North Africa. So Arabesque is a nonprofit organization. We are trying to kind of celebrate the community here in Western New York, upstate New York, and Central New York. But at the same time, we are trying to kind of like focus on the MENA community, Middle East and North Africa, especially the arts and culture, because they do have, there's a lot of representation through food and through religion, but there isn't representation through art. And like if you wanna look into communities like the MENA communities where they can find their artwork or art-related activities, you have to go down to New York City, which is kind of a bummer. So since I came to New York State back in 2016, I was trying to find myself in places. So I was like always connecting to communities, always trying. And this is very important because part of, in my opinion, marketing is not only about being behind the screen, it's also connecting to the community, listening to the community, seeing what's going on, and trying to bring people together. One of the things that I found in general, that there is two worlds. You have the corporate world, there is the nonprofit world. The nonprofit world can be a customer of the corporate, but they don't, like leaders of those industry, they do not interact so much. There might be interacting on higher level, like owners or people who want to donate or things like that, but there isn't like conversations happening, how we can bring everyone together. So based on that, I wanted to, as I said, share my input. My experience, as I said, so I do a lot of workshops for Arabic calligraphy, Middle Eastern arts and culture. This is one of my workshops here in Cornell Public Library. And I recently also did the workshops with Buffalo Public Library. I design exhibits for different museums and galleries with different art levels, like emerging artists or professional artists. I'm not as famous as the AKG, because that's a different level, like its own beautiful word. So anyway, but I am I'm known more into community work, so that's where I focus my work as well. I also do a lot of programming for nonprofits and cultural organizations and cultural places. That means, for example, if there are nonprofits that are looking to curate event, design an event, which I was been doing recently. One of the recent experiences was with APAPA, which is Asian Pacific Islander, American Public Affairs. It's a very long name. And another organization, I recently also helped with the World Refugee Day, which was like last Saturday when we had horrible air quality. So, well, I don't know. I'm happy people are here breathing. I was like working and doing 2 days work. So this is where I go, like more culture, more art. Recently, through the Arabesque, we had the Arab Heritage Month celebration. We had it at the Buffalo History Museum, which is a wonderful place. If you have a nonprofit, they're very affordable to host seminars, conferences, events. They have beautiful auditoriums, which is I love so much. So I honestly think it's fine if you guys want to ask me questions. I'm fine to have a conversation more than being like, oh, just listening. So don't feel afraid to ask. So as we know, how do you say things without being political? So this is like a very big topic in art organizations, right? Because this affects how they work, who they hire, who they bring either as a team member, or even if they want to hire a marketing agency, or if they want to hire someone in advertising. So what's going on right now? Who knows what's going on with federal arts grants in general? So there's some people who knows. So back in 2025, when things started, unfortunately, there is something called National Endowment for the Arts. And National Endowment for the Arts is a federally funded grant program that gives money to big organizations, including places like AKG, Berkshire Penny, New York Folklore Society, where I'm on the board, different. So this program was cut into the half, or maybe even more. A lot of grants were withdrawn from the organizations, and that kind of affected how those organizations are functioning. So if you go to some local organizations here, I'm talking about the arts, I'm not talking, but there are other who got influenced with what's going on. But specifically the art organizations, they had to cut their teams. They have, for example, some of Castellani Museum, they had 9 staffers. Do you guys know Castellani in Niagara University? Okay. They cut it into 4 to 5 staffers, and that's also influenced how much they're paying for their staffers. So for example, if you have someone who's experienced in marketing, social media, and grants writing, they're all they were working all of those things together. So loads were, responsibilities, I would say, were increased, and that made it harder for people to stay, but also that also because of the funding, because those organizations lost their funding, and now people are trying to sustain their resources and stay as strong as possible. So this is one of the biggest topics, but besides the grants cut, as we all know, everything is more expensive, right? Gas is more expensive, food is more expensive, materials, it's becoming, you have tariffs, gas, food. It's, you know, we don't want to be political, but it's becoming, you know, it's becoming part of what we're talking about, unfortunately. So that kind of increased like how much they have budget. For example, if you have a company, I know like one of the museums, they wanted to purchase lighting to their exhibits, and they had like budget for $100,000, but now it's becoming $150 because of tariffs. So that kind of increased their budget. Now they're figuring out how to do more fundraising things. So this also like all taking us how much those organizations have, art organizations specifically, because unfortunately art is always the less important in all industries. Like even in schools, like what is the most important subject in the school? It's math, science, right? Sports. Exactly. And the arts, it's just like the arts, basically right now, people needs the arts for mental reasons, for, you know, psychological reasons, for many things, because it helps you a lot. So this is like kind of affecting what's going on. So the budget's always shifting. You have the audience is changing their behaviors. Like right now, how people interact with each other, how they're doing things together. So, and this is a sentence that I highly believe in, is partnerships and community-driven initiatives and community-driven marketing. So that means like when you're trying to market for yourself as an organization, like let's say I'm talking about Arabesques, my own art organization, which is basically, I don't have staff, I'm the executive director, the founder, but I'm also the social media person, I'm the marketing person, the community. I'm just like doing, you know, I think I'm becoming a Buddha for yeah, but I mean, with this, just like, you know, it's wonderful to have, you know, all those, I'm lucky I have those skills, but it's also becoming harder. But this is like kind of, but I also believe that I can't be working on by myself. I have to connect to the community. I have to create partnerships. I have to be part of the community, and that's also part of how I'm using my resources to do more marketing for myself. So like you can't be, one of the things like I have friends who go and like, oh, we have this budget, we're doing this pitch to go to organizations and tell them how much we want, but like what is the relationship that you created? What is the partnership that you created? What is the community work that you created with this organization to help like establish this relationship of marketing and advertising, you know? So, and it feels like a heist. Do you guys remember the Louvre heist? Mm-hmm. Yes, which is like, this is how I feel like someone stole the money from the public, seriously, and like they are not giving it to us. For me, it's just like, I remember last year I was working on a research project in 2025 in May, and suddenly I was told that this project is not funded anymore because of the withdrawal of funding. And then I was like, okay, so I had to stop everything. It's not only me, like millions of people, which is unfortunate. So going back, so it feels like a heist, but there's financial pressure, there's the audience behavior, there's digital challenges. Another thing about art organization, especially small one, I'm not talking about AKG, like you have unlimited resources. I don't know if unlimited resources, because they also struggle right now. They had to cut their staff and, you know, to also like increase responsibilities. But I think it's like small organizations, people who work in arts and culture and history usually do not have the highly digital skills. Like sometimes I used to have cards, like I used to have my digital cards instead of physical ones, but then I realized people need physical cards, you know, especially in certain places, which is because some people like to have something they can touch and keep it with them. But at the same time, some people do not have access to those digital instruments or tools that many people have. So that's kind of another challenge that I would say influenced the nonprofit organizations. So another part of the challenges are basically how museums and galleries or art organizations are changing their approach. So like, as we know, especially for youth, like if you tell them let's go to a museum or to go to an art gallery or to do some type of experience, they want to have more interactive experience. But it's not only youth, it's becoming even many adults who do not only want to read labels. So I'm giving this example because I recently was in New York City and I went to the Museum of City of New York. Have you guys, anyone been there before or never? It's actually, I was really impressed because the way they curated their space, there was a lot of interactive experiences, like, you know, for example, here there's a lot of touch screens, touch places, things like strings that you can withdraw, places where they can teach you about voting and stuff like that, like especially back in the 1700s, how did they voted. Here, for example, like bringing different type of art experience that talks about different humans, you know, and like kind of representation of the diverse community in New York City. This is a great example of a beautiful exhibit. It's called Art Heals, and it talks about how art heals humanity. This exhibit is from the 1930s, from the Great Depression, when the United States was going through the Great Depression, and I think there's something called the WPA, the Work in Progress Administration, which is a very, because I'm not from here, I came to the United States 13 years ago, so I'm learning a lot of things while I'm going, you know, which is, you know, that's why I love museums. So anyway, I'm also a museum nerd, so, but yeah. So anyway, and nerd is fine, like, you can be a nerd, it's okay. So anyway, so those beautiful like murals, there's I think 15 murals created by an artist who was, those were installed in a hospital, and those murals were very, like, I don't know what's the expression, they were not only beautifully drawn or painted, but they were also very like imaginative, and it was inspired by Alice in Wonderland, the story. But Alice was visiting New York in this case, and actually it was also inspired by Alice, the daughter of, I can't remember the writer of, do you guys remember the name of the writer of Alice in Wonderland? Or
Lewis Carroll.
Yes, so his daughter was visiting New York back in the 1930s or 40s, and like the artist, he got inspired by her work, by her, and like by the story of Alice in Wonderland. And he basically created those beautiful murals that kind of represent what is New York City, and also bringing New York City to the sick children or sick people who cannot leave the hospital. So that's kind of like this story. I was reading like about this story, and I was like amazed because, like, you know, this approach of how the artist tried to reach to those like communities or to those sick people by creating this, but at the same time, how the federal government was aware how much art is important mentally for the people who were going through the Great Depression, allocating funds for the arts. So, but why I'm talking about this, because it's also part of reaching out to the community and touching on very important issues that are created, that matters to the community. So, but it's also like a part of like why people should care about any museum or art organization mission. Like why, like what is because this is the separation. Like I see some organizations here are very connected to their community, and some organizations were just an exhibiting hall. So like I think this is a question for any art organization and what they're trying to do with the funds and resources and their community connection that they have. Another challenge, it is a good thing, but it's also a challenge because one of the problems is AI is a dangerous tool, but it's also a beautiful tool. But it depends on how you understand it or how you use it, because unfortunately some people use it extremely, especially in arts organization. And like you can see a lot of flyers that I see very, it feels like very AI designed, which is like kind of interesting. And I'm just like kind of like, why you're using AI this much, you know, like it's those questions. But also like, I think there's something wrong with my, sorry. Yeah. But anyway, so one of the things like why they're using this AI so heavily, but at the same time, like they're not using it properly, because AI exists, but then like you have the challenge, like you want to use it for emails, you want to use it for writing, you want to use it for spelling, you know, but also like at some point, as we all know, and I'm pretty sure many people in this room know, that many companies are not profiting as much as they want from AI, so they want to raise their margins of profits, and that's why if you open ChatGPT or OpenAI, you will see a lot of ads, but at the same time, you know that in the future it's not going to be a free service, it's going to be, you have to pay for it. So those are the challenges. Asking ourselves, like, do we have the resources to, like as an art organization, to keep using AI, you know? Like we don't know. So this is like a benefit but challenge. And you hear all about those free programmings, but at the same time, how long it's gonna stay free? Because those companies, they want to profit. They don't want to lose money, as we know. So we have audiences who are trying to discover the cultures and trying to go to different ways of, you know, how we can grow those resources for art organizations. Some people say, I can go to the Instagram page, I don't have to see the artwork, I don't have to go to the gallery, I don't have to visit this museum, there's no need for a membership, you know, or whatever, because those are the resources where museums get money from. So sometimes providing those resources like entry tickets, memberships, like some organizations, like the AKG for example, they live on 2 resources. The members payments, different levels, tickets, their endowment. I believe they do have an endowment, which is like kind of money that were invested. I don't know if you guys know what is an endowment in the arts. And like, you know, so you losing those, you know, audiences and like how people are coming to museums is very risky. But then also like how we can promote to our galleries, how we promote to our cultures. Like for example, when no one told me about the Museum of City of New York. I was passing by and I was like, okay, I wanna, you know, air quality is horrible, I'm just gonna go there, you know? And I went there and I was really fascinated because the staff were very flexible. They were very nice. Entrance was very easy, access was very easy. They guide me, everyone in the museum basically was there to support your visit, you know? And I think that, I can see that also in some museums here, like the Buffalo History Museums, they're an amazing institution. Yeah, but those things kind of contribute to how you are presenting yourself as an art organization and how you gain trust by the community. So the things that we think that it works, as we said, the human-centered storytelling, going back to the exhibit of Alice in Wonderland, where the artist created like an experience for someone who is living in the hospital and they cannot leave it for health reasons. So that's why, like, when he created those panels, he basically created a human-centered storytelling, right? Because it's focusing on the humans, on their experiences. You can't, like, I see some of the exhibits right now, it's just like becoming very isolated from the human needs. Like, what's going on with the human's daily life? Like, you know, that's very important. Like, you have to listen to the community voices, you have to bring the cultural narratives. Who is in your community? You know, is it people that you really listen to, or you're just here to just display the artwork? So that's like kind of those things. And then, you know, like as we see, I've been in a conference back in May in Albany for museums, and one of the sessions was about like marketing for museums and galleries. And there was a lot of talk about TikTok and how you use TikTok and, you know, like, or Instagram or those, you know, social media platforms, how you can use it to promote for exhibits, for human experiences. But then there was like a kind of a question, because they were heavily invested in TikTok. And there, as we all know, there's a lot of factors that plays role in who you are reaching to, right? Like, especially algorithm, who you're following, who you like, who you do not like, what is the videos that you interact with. So like, it's also in Instagram, but I feel like TikTok, it's more, I don't know if you guys agree, like, do you think TikTok is more heavily based on algorithm, or more? Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So like, I kind of feel the same about it. So I was like kind of, you know, because one of the presenters, he was like in a very famous marketing agency, and he was like insisting that TikTok is important. I was like, but from my human experience, I'm seeing that TikTok is not as much. So I think this is like, you know, the separation. Who you're serving people who work with museums, galleries, who are interested in the storytelling and the human experience, but at the same time, you're also listening to the research, but you're not listening to the community. This is the separate. You can't only base your talk or your work on the numbers. You have also go out and connect with the community and do outreach. So things that do not work anymore, like, you know, some people heavily use printed materials. Some organizations promote without emotional connection, or there's no messaging in like what they're using or what they're promoting for their either exhibits or for their, like, you know, what they have, like events. As we know also, like museums heavily, beside the memberships and ticket sales, they also need a lot of, you know, events, space rentals, getting grants for space rentals or community work. So those things, like, you know, kind of how you promote your event, how you boost any post, how you make sure that this work is reaching out to as much people as possible. Like, for example, when we were at the World, I was one of the organizers at the World Refugee Day, and someone said that they heard it from someone they know. It was not advertised, they didn't see any advertisement on social media or any way. And that's a very important question, because this person, she works in Buffalo Public Schools. And Buffalo Public Schools, they serve a lot of refugee and immigrants communities. So why it did not reach out to them? So this is the question mark. Though we were having, I mean, I joined late as an organizing team, but still, like, you know, that's also a question. Who was responsible to get those messages to the community? So this is like kind of things that we are trying to do. So like, are you trying to build relationships or share the impact, or, you know, become more productive regarding So what's happening is I go to AKG. I love their the museum, their galleries as a visitor, right? And then there's an artwork I love in the museum. I think it's called the Cardinal or something. So it's like there's like a chef and the cardinal, and the chef is getting, have you guys been to
delicious sauce.
You know that?
It's
Huh?
called the delicious sauce.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it. And this artwork, the first time I've seen it, I was like, I love, especially because it's in the 1800s. I love the sarcasm of this artwork, and like how this artist created this relationship between because back in the 1800s there was separation between classes. You have the cardinal, you know, who's highly influenced person, and then you have the chef, right? So like how this artist connected those. So there I fell in love with that artwork, and every time I go to the museum, my first stop is this painting. And I don't know if I mentioned it to one of the staff people, and they turned it into, I don't know if they listened to me or it was someone else's, you know, recommendation, or many people, but suddenly they turned it into an apron.
Yeah.
Have you seen, not turned it, like, you know, they got a print out of it from on an apron, which is beautiful apron. And that's a kind of way of also marketing. So, but then as a visitor, I became a member at some point. I'm not a donor yet, I don't have, I can donate a few amounts, but you know, I can become an advocate if I saw this museum represent my community, which is the Middle Eastern and North African, because unfortunately all the galleries does not have any artwork by Arab artists, for example. But then a lot of communities should be represented, not only my community. So this is like kind of those question marks, how much a museum connect to a community. So like we have the marketing data, membership information, donor insights. Like as a donor or as a member, you always want to share your insights, but does the place hear it? Does the organization hear it? Listen to your concerns or not? That's the question mark. Partnerships, which if you remember the beginning of my presentation, who were there, like I was talking heavily about building community connections and partnerships, and how it is important for each community to feel represented, but at the same time, how you're marketing yourself. You have awareness, engagement, loyalty, and all of those. And my key takeaways: community storytelling drives art marketing success, adapt to evolving audience behaviors and digital habits. AI enhances creativity, it does not replace it, because I was in a retreat last September with art organizations, and they were so scared when I said, like, we have to be aware of AI and how much we can use it. Someone got really scared because they felt it replacing them, but that's not true. It depends on how you use it. You have to control the use of AI. It is not a source of creativity, it is more a tool to help you either be creative or be more aware of what's going on, or how to organize yourself. More than anything, like I use AI, but I cannot depend on it for ideas or for anything. My ideas in my head, I kind of try to organize it, but at the same time, it is not a source or a tool to replace me. So that's the thing that we have to be aware of. Trust and relationships build long-term sustainability. How you make sure that the community trusts you and they want to come back. So those are big question marks and important to know. So And thank you. Shukran in Arabic. This is how you write shukran in Arabic. So this is like your first Arabic word maybe today, some of you. And this is Arabesque, my organization, if you want to scan it, my business, and this is my artwork, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much. We have another 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, do you want to kill it before question and answer, or keep it going?
Keep it going, yeah. Any questions? I'm open to any questions. Yes.
I just want to make one comment that
Yeah.
usually art is the first thing to get cut, but unfortunately, art is also the first thing that gets pulled in, because marketing requires art and copyright and imagery. So it's
yeah.
kind of a funny
Yeah.
thing that they do that.
I'm sorry, it's not what?
It's a kind of funny thing how they take away art initially, but then it's the first thing that they pull back.
In
because it's required for marketing.
Yeah, and even like if you want to like go into interior design or even architecture, art is part of everything, you know? So even like when you're designing brochures for hospitals, there is art and design included. So yeah, but I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
When you were talking about the failure rates of
I'm sorry, I was talking about what?
failure, when you're talking about failure when you're attempting to communicate through the major social media platforms. I think one of the things that the organization that I've been working with has been learning is that you really have to be very, very specific about your numbers and your intended audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And that specificity actually winds up being a tool in the interface when you are, let's say, boosting a post, right? Like
Yeah.
the reason it's so important is because there are idiosyncrasies to local audiences that are also very specific. So like when you're looking at research numbers, for instance, when you're doing like demographic research and targeting, broad demographic research and targeting doesn't help you if you're living in a very specific community that has a very specific behavior.
Exactly.
And our community, as the city of Buffalo, has a very, very specific identity and behavior, and it is actually an unusual behavior and identity because we have a very strong arts community. We also have a very strong sports community. There is overlap between the arts community and the sports community. They're like the idiosyncrasies, I think, of the individual markets are things that actually are available to you if you're looking for them when you're trying to boost social media posts, right? So, and then the other thing that seems to have found success is the more humor and the more human element and the more representation of people that you have in your outreach materials, as opposed to just like posting an image of what the poster is for an event. Every time you show someone who's working for that arts organization in some sort of human capacity. Birchfield was doing a great job of this a couple of years ago, and then they lost their social media person. And the level of engagement that they got with their social media outreach was amazing because they were having a lot of fun using their employees to make their content. And one in particular that was absolutely amazing was they did a complete Wes Anderson ripoff. Did anybody see that? Does anybody remember that? So Birchfield Penny did a Wes Anderson ripoff and made like it was like and it wasn't very long, it was like 30 seconds. But I remember watching it multiple times because it was so entertaining, but it was also so human-centered. And so all of the points that you're making about the community in particular is, in the age of AI, now becoming even more important because people are gravitating towards representation that feels personal. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think it's a good point.
Yeah, and I want to add to what you said that also behaviors change. Like what worked 2 years ago, like Wes Anderson videos were very popular then, but then like we were coming out of COVID. So like kind of what works right now, like I remember because I'm also a painter, I'm an artist myself, so like when I was trying to do artwork, I did like some research, what are the most colors that people like after COVID, and it appears to be the colors of sunset and sunrise. And like, you know, kind of, do you know those like kind of oranges and like purples and, you know, so those kind of, I feel like there is a lot of research online and there's a lot of numbers, but I think the best thing that any organization do is listen directly to your community, you know, and that's kind of the separation, like what is the community is telling you, what they want, what they need, you know, and that's very important in my opinion. In addition to, I love the Birchfield Penny and what they do, their work is amazing. All organizations here are highly, you know, influential in their work. But I feel like we still need to be connected more. So, but yeah. So yeah, thank you for your question and input. Yeah. Any other questions or?
Is social media kind of seen as an evil necessity? Because it just does feel like the companies behind it aren't very respectable. So like in what you were saying about TikTok, it just feels like the same applies to Instagram with Meta owning it, and Facebook and X. It just feels like a lot of these social media companies just have an agenda that just feels it could kind of pollute messaging for more kind of pure art organizations. And I'm just wondering, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, is there a way to succeed online without using those social media machines?
I mean, I feel like you can still do print and like in person, like giving away and tabling, because I think what's happening right now, and I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, that his organization was heavily using social media to reach out to different communities, and then he realized that he needs to bring certain communities, so he has to go and table in events. So for example, we had in World Refugee Day, there's a lot of organizations that came and tabled, like the Journey's End. I think there was like the New American Office of New Americans, the ONA. There was like another organization, I can't remember. There's like Molina Healthcare. So there is like, if you want to use social media, but you want to show your face as well. Especially like AI is too much. Like you go online and I feel like so overwhelmed. But I feel also like choosing the right platform is very important. I personally, for example, for my organization Arabesques, I don't feel like TikTok is a good platform. I don't use Facebook for it. I just use Instagram. I only have an account on Instagram because my organization is heavily visual. I don't think you can replace social media, but I think you have to use everything you have, all the tools, you know? As I said, like tabling in events, doing interviews on TV, maybe, you know, like trying to go visit places, networking events, reaching out to communities. There's a lot of ways to interact, because also the word of mouth is very important, might be more important than social media, much more. Because when people hear from me, like right now, I'm doing advertising to my audience, right? You guys are here, I showed you images, I put the QR code, please scan it if possible. I'm advertising myself, I'm advertising marketing for myself, for my organization, my business, all the things that I can do, because you guys are listening to me, you're here, but also you go to conferences, you go to events. There's hundreds of ways to advocate for yourself, and it doesn't have to be social media. And I feel like this is part of the thing that I was telling, that people use one way, and this is where things go wrong, you know, or one method, or they get stuck in one method in their, you know, behaviors while they're reaching out to communities or different people. So, but I don't think social media is replaceable. I feel like it's hard right now. Yeah. So, especially with gas prices. So.
Well, it's so funny, because if you heavily invest in just one type of thing, they change a logarithm, they change a rule or whatever,
Yeah.
then your whole company is at the whim of them, you know, at the whim of and so many of the different types, you know, the medium's the message as well, you know,
Right.
what does Instagram want you to show, it doesn't. So I think it's uncomfortable to go back to the basics of just getting out there.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoyed that you said, because you know, you get back into these, there's no way to prove that going to this yielded 5 clicks on something, you know what I mean? You don't, it's harder to have a data point, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like, because I mean, like for example, I do love working with the Buffalo History Museum,
Yeah.
and I like to mention it because, for example, we did 2 Arab Heritage Month with them, and we're gonna do the 3rd one next year with them as well. So they're welcoming, they're in open space, they have very, very limited resources, they have very limited staff, but I think they do have social media, but they're not only using social media. That's what I think that's the question mark, you know.
And then what you say about understanding your audience too.
Yeah.
I teach, you know, 18 to 21-year-olds, and some of them are like, I don't have an Instagram, what are you talking about? It's TikTok's selling my data, you know what I mean? I'm not, you know, so I see there's some patterns changing with that. So
They're recusing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're starting to recuse.
Yeah, they are. And
They're refusing to use Instagram.
Yeah, and I see
wow.
them kind of understanding their habits of, if they see an obviously AI image, they get really turned off, you know, by that.
Oh, wow.
They're not going to be like, I can totally tell that this writing was AI. They can't tell that, but you know, AI image. But yeah, understanding what their audience, what they need. Maybe the social media is not, you know, I worked for, did stuff with AAF Buffalo for a long time, which is an advertising federation, you know, for advertising professionals. And I remember when we were promoting stuff, they'd be like, oh, why isn't anyone coming to stuff? We put it on Instagram. Like, there's no poster in the classroom. You know, kids gonna walk in the classroom every day, they see a post for 1 second on Instagram, and that's not even serviced because it you know, didn't rank high enough or something. So the old-fashioned connections, you just cannot beat it. So I think it's so pointless.
You cannot meet them, you said?
No, yeah, you can't beat it.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I think like people, because also as an educator yourself, you know that humans are like different stylers. They have different learning styles, right?
Yeah,
you know, we have auditory, kinesthetic, and visualistic. I'm heavily visualistic and kinesthetic, because you know, and many people like me. So it's important to feed all those learning styles. You know, so.
Yeah, that's a great mechanism.
My son's in high school, and he says, in general, there's a huge pushback on social media and also AI. They do not like AI.
Yeah.
Oh, they do not.
I
Wow.
think they're more cognizant of what the medium that they're in, like how they'll use it to their own benefit, but they don't want to be, like they understand if you watch a YouTube video, it generates money for a person, and I think they kind of see where that is, you know.
I mean, I don't hate or like AI. I think it's just like an instrument. But if you use it too much, then this is a problem, you know. And I see a lot of organizations use AI to design their flyers. I don't know, I mentioned that earlier. And it shows, like we were having this conversation yesterday. You can feel like this is an AI flyer. Like you can feel it. It's not human centered. It's not.
So a flyer becomes an AI flyer.
Flyer, yes. Yes. But yeah. Any other questions?
So I find the term AI art to be an oxymoron, right? Like it's not art; it is just generated pixels stolen from other artists.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on IP and just artists owning their work when it comes to AI? And what are your thoughts there?
I mean, we all know that AI is your pet as much as you feed it information, right? And then it becomes like, for example, I have my own account on ChatGPT, right? And then I start like I want to organize my papers when I'm writing grants. So now it knows me, it has my information, it knows that my name is Nada, I am a visual artist, it knows my resume, it knows my all the information. And this is not only going to my account, it's going everywhere, you know? And I don't know if you heard, I don't know if you heard about the story about OpenAI, but maybe everyone heard it, that they had like a sandbox AI thing and it got rogue. Did you hear it? Oh no? Did you guys hear it? Yeah.
The library, it was a test that they.
It was a test, and they say, I don't know if it's true or false, but I mean, like, how do you, like, it's not like, I understand if you do, like, for example, you as a photographer, you use Photoshop maybe to edit your photos, or use Lightroom, or I don't know which platform you use, but something like that. But you're working on it, you know? Like, versus when you're, like, generating images through AI, you're using other people's talents, you're using other people's designs, you're taking creativity from someone else, someone who worked so hard on creating their own styles, and like you're taking that. So I feel like, I mean, I see a lot of galleries and museums, they want to celebrate it, like the MoMA, for example. There was a Turkish artist, I can't remember his name, but he did like a whole exhibit AI, and an art critic. Yes. Yes, Anadol. And then there was an art critic. He said, this seems like a screensaver to me, you know, which is true, honestly. Like, what is the difference between this and where is, you know, the use? But then I also have a friend who paints, right? And he used his paintings like as a platform, and then he takes that and used an AI app to create stories on the painting that he did, or to make those paintings alive. So like, how you're using it, that's the question. So this is, and I wish my friend was here, because he's a local artist in Buffalo, and he does really beautiful work. I mean, I personally, I like it, but I'm hesitant, you know? But at the same time, he's using his own artwork and making those images alive, like making it more animated, you know? So that's you know, it's just a question mark, how you're using AI, so.
So I guess my follow-up to the way he's using AI is he's using his initial piece of art.
Yes, exactly.
But once it's run through these series of algorithms that the platforms are built on, is it not stealing other work? Like, where do we draw the line for intellectual property as artists?
Yeah, I don't think it's stealing other people's work, because like the people has to put the app on his painting to see that character is animated, you know, but he's not like installing it in a different like a platform, so he's not stealing anyone's artwork. He is just animating his own artwork. So basically, when you put like an image, I can't remember which app. There's an app that you like just put images and make it like animated. So it depends on how you're using it. So.